Thank you very much. I'm very happy to see so many of you here. While this is basically a success seminar, for many years, as Lute Mason said, I did teach and do teach now effective communication at the University of Chicago, Northwestern University, and now we teach at the University of California here in San Diego. Tonight I'm going to cover general semantics, communication, and what the books on success motivation talk about. They call it accurate thinking. But in general semantics, we call this the scientific method or intelligent behavior. Now let me ask some questions. Why are some of you here? So we can get a point of operation. Anyone at all? Use your mind for better communication. With others? Okay. Anyone else? Yes? How to get rid of negative ideas. Do you have negative ideas? Lots of them? Probably not as many as the people who are not here. Right? This is what I find in my management and communication seminars, as I will continually emphasize, the people who should be here are never here. They receive our brochures from the University of Chicago, Northwestern, etc. The boss will say, hey, this looks good. This is a course on effective communication. Here, Joe, you take it. And he's the one who needs it the most, the president of the company, as we will see. But the important thing is that the individuals with a negative mental attitude, they don't realize this. They don't realize that they have a negative mental attitude. Others can see it around them. So these are just some of the areas that we will be covering. After the last lecture, one of the teachers came up and said, why don't they teach this to our high school students? If they could only learn the importance of psycho-cybernetics, self-image psychology, the power of positive thinking, general semantics, and effective communication. See, for many years I've been teaching effective communication. How do you communicate effectively with other people? Which is what we will be talking about tonight. But the most important kind of communicating that you and I do is not the kind of communicating we do with other people, but it's the kind of communicating that you and I do to ourselves about ourselves. Dr. Maltz calls this self-image psychology. Think and Grow Rich of Napoleon Hill. Andrew Carnegie's formula of how to become a millionaire, which is what I'll be talking about. All of these areas, the magic of believing. You and I communicate to ourselves every minute of our waking days. But how can we learn to give ourselves the proper suggestions for success rather than failure? For becoming a millionaire rather than being poverty-stricken. And when I use the word rich, I don't necessarily mean to become a millionaire. I mean freedom from poverty. When I talk about money, I don't mean money as an end in itself, but as a means to an end. And I hope that none of us will have a guilt complex about striving for money or making a lot of money. Sometimes other individuals will try to create a guilt complex in you. You find this throughout. And we will talk more about that. Okay, let me go into this first area of semantics and communication. What does semantics mean? Anyone? What's that? Science of meanings. All right. Let's just say the meaning of words. It deals with the meaning of words, semantics. But what I teach is not semantics, it's general semantics. General semantics was created by Count Alfred Korzybski in a very large book called Science and Sanity. Many of the scholars who have read Science and Sanity, they will agree that Alfred Korzybski himself was 150 years ahead of his time. We're starting to catch up. The book was published in 1933 at first. Science and Sanity. And what Korzybski meant, and he was a Polish count who came over to this country after the First World War, he said that there's something wrong with our everyday ways of thinking, communicating, and behaving. Why do we have so many wars? Why do we have so many fights? Why do we have so many arguments? And that was in the 1919, 1920, 1915 he was thinking about this, during the First World War. And today it's worse yet. You talk about insanity and unsanity in contradistinction to sanity. All of the fights and riots and student rebellions, etc. And this is why I have been very interested in what Hayakawa has been doing, and will be especially interested in what he will be doing in the future. In fact, I have a new file on the semantics of student unrest. And this is one of the things that I lecture at high schools, colleges, etc. Because why would an English teacher be brought in as president of San Francisco State? Dr. Hayakawa is not only an English professor, but he is a general semanticist. Well, what is a general semanticist? They deal with problems of disagreement, of conflict. How can you and I learn to cooperate rather than build bigger bridges between us? And this is what we are concerned with. Korzybski asked the question, why do we have wars, fights, arguments, etc.? And one of the answers lies in his definition of general semantics. Now, before I give you the definition, I'd like to have you take your pencil and piece of paper, because this is my way of teaching. Would you take some scratch paper, please? And please be prepared to take a lot of notes, and especially tomorrow night, because I'm giving you the outline of many books, many courses. I want you to take home something that you can learn here and something that you can apply at home. As I say, and I do not mean to say this in a disparaging way at all about preachers, ministers, or what have you, but you know, the rhetorical difference that we very often make between a preacher, we say he sounds like a preacher with high-order abstractions. I will talk about high-order abstractions. In fact, I have a speech that I give to my students, which is called a speech for all occasions. You could give it anywhere. It doesn't say anything specific or concrete. And some of us in our communication use this kind of language. This is why we have misunderstandings, because we are not specific in our communicating, in our talking. Now, would you number from 1 through 6, if you will, please? Number from 1 through 6. And then number from 1 through 5 twice. Call the 1, let's say Roman numeral 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Roman numeral 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, now this is how I teach, because I don't believe in just lecturing to an audience, to a group of students. I want you to change your behavior. I want you to do some thinking. When you leave here tonight, I want you to be a different person than you were before. And for the 4 lectures, I hope that you will be a completely different person than you were before, because you have not learned until you change your behavior. Too much of our education is only intellectual or cortical learning. But learning only comes at the point of performance, when you can behave differently. This is when you have learned. And especially in the area of communication or intelligent behavior, and general semantics can be applied to all situations, as we will see. I don't care what your job is. I gave the early morning lecture series in 1962 to 5,000 members of the National Safety Congress. I used to teach at Northwestern University's Traffic Institute. And those of you who are in business or industry, who are concerned with accidents, you will find that 85–90% of the accidents in business and industry are due to human error, are due to false assumptions, misevaluations, inaccurate thinking. Right? We are concerned with that. This is also true in communication failures. This is also true in human relations failures, because a company never does business with another company. The word company, these are words or high-order abstractions. In business and industry, you only have one man doing business with another man. Right? And this is what we have to think in terms of. How can you be more effective in dealing with other people? In selling, in persuading, in motivating others, also in motivating yourself. How can you communicate more effectively with yourself, about yourself, as well as communicating more effectively with others? Okay, let me read a little story And according to the facts of the story, would you answer either true, false, or don't know? According to the facts of the story. All right, here's the story. Jim Jones was standing on the corner waiting for a bus. The corner was dark and lonely. Jim knew that many robbers were around that neighborhood because he was familiar with it. While he was waiting for the bus, a man sneaked up behind him and hit him in the back. Jim whirled around quickly and caught the man with a hard right squarely on the jaw. All right, answer true, false, or don't know. Number one, the bus Jim was waiting for was late. Number two, Jim was right in hitting the man before he robbed him. Number three, such intelligent action will always result in capturing more robbers. Number four, this robber should have hit Jim Jones harder before he had a chance to turn around. Number five, the robber landed on the sidewalk and did not succeed in his attempt. And number six, Jim should not have struck the man. All right. The second set, from 1 to 5, and then from 1 to 5. Number one, answer either A, B, or any way you want. Either A, B, or any way you want. Which girl do you think is more beautiful? Number one, A, Diane Darling, or B, Elsie Zadrowski? Number two, A, Bessie Hackcraft, or B, Louise Love? Number three, A, Lisa Hoy, or B, Joy Lamar? Number four, A, Lorette LaRue, or B, Fedora Aardvark? Number five, A, Letitia He, or B, Ann Starr? All right, which fellow do you think is more handsome? Number one, A, Tim Condon, or B, Abe Schwartz? Number two, A, Alan Dale, or B, Nick Nepopoulos? Nick Nepopoulos. Number three, A, Tiger Krachorish, or B, Bill White? Number four, A, Robert Jones II, or B, Toivo Kintunen? And number five, Clark Blake, or B, Antone Giuseppe? Okay. Now, I have a little quiz that I give all of my students. In fact, 20 years ago now, I devised this with Dr. Irving J. Lee, who was my professor at Northwestern University. He was a protege of Count Alfred Korzybski, who invented general semantics, and all of my work basically has been with Dr. Lee, except Hayakawa was my first professor, as Luke Mason said, at Teachers College, Columbia, and frankly, it was through Dr. Hayakawa's letter of recommendation to Dr. Lee that I got my assistantship scholarships to work with Dr. Lee. And when Dr. Hayakawa went to San Francisco State from the University of Chicago, I took over the classes in general semantics. All right, let me show you again what we mean by misevaluations. For example, before I get to the little quiz, there are 4 phases involved in all kinds of human behavior. 4 phases involved in all kinds of human behavior. Number one, there's a happening. All of you are listening to a lecture right now. I drop the eraser, that's the happening. The little illustration I gave you, a man standing on the corner waiting for a bus, somebody comes up, sneaks up behind him and hits him in the back. Those are happenings. This leads to, number two, a nervous impact. A nervous impact. I drop the eraser. There's a nervous impact impinging on your nervous system. Someone comes up behind you and hits you on the back. There's a nervous impact. But there is something more. And this is what we are concerned with. Number 3, there is some kind of an evaluation. An evaluation. A way of thinking. The lady who said she took this course because of curiosity. That's an evaluation, right? All of you, I'm sure, came here with some kind of an evaluation. Or individuals who did not take the course, I'm sure, had an evaluation, an assumption, an inference, etc. And this leads to number 4, which is some kind of talk and or act. By evaluation, we mean a way of thinking, sizing up the situation. Now, we use the word evaluation. Notice I said some of the success books use the word thinking, accurate thinking. We use the term a factual orientation, or more scientifically, and I will define this later on, an extensional orientation, which really means an orientation based upon facts, not false inferences, assumptions, etc. But they are one and all the same thing. We are concerned with the relationship between number 3 and numbers 1, 2, and 4. In other words, is your way of thinking, evaluating, is it proper? A proper evaluation? Or is it a misevaluation? Is it accurate thinking, or is it inaccurate thinking? Is it the scientific method or the unscientific method? Does it lead to agreement or disagreement? Cooperation or conflict? We can put all kinds of situations into the proper evaluation or the misevaluation category. And so this is what we are concerned with. If you are successful in business or human relations, probably your thinking is that of the proper evaluation variety. If you are a failure, if you are having communication difficulties, if you are having human relations difficulties, if you are having problems with others, if you are having problems with yourself, you have some misevaluations inside of you. And this is what we are concerned with. What kinds of proper and misevaluations are we involved with? Now, by proper evaluation, we mean this. A proper evaluation is an evaluation that fits the facts. A proper evaluation is an evaluation that fits the facts. My friend Ray Huffman, the largest apartment building builder in San Diego, is taking the course, and I'm very happy to see this. Because here is a man who is already successful, and yet he feels the need to learn more. This is what we have been talking about for 20 years. This is why I wrote the book, The Closed Mind, and I will refer to these. Actually, this is only one chapter of my big book. I've got about another chapter and a half to go in a large book. But no one in the field of general semantics has written 30, 40 pages in one principle alone. And this is why this particular principle has been so meaningful for executives. Put a label on a man, such as give him a title of PhD, MD, doctor, president of a company, something happens to his ways of evaluating. Sometimes he stops asking questions and he gives answers. You only have one-way communication with some presidents. Communication top-down. They don't allow you to have communication down-up. And this is why we have problems. This is why we are concerned with a closed mind. And it doesn't have to be in the extreme form of dogmatic behavior, as I will talk about very, very shortly. but in the very subtle manifestations of not asking questions. This is why you have accidents right in the building industry. Because some of the individuals who are working for you, or perhaps some of your executives themselves, they don't ask questions. They assume too much. They jump to conclusions. They act on inferences as if they were factual. Because they don't know the difference, they are not taught the difference between their inferences, their assumptions, and a statement of fact. And this is what we will be covering tonight. So what we will be covering tonight have tremendous implications in business, in industry, more specifically in communication with others, certainly in communicating with ourselves, about ourselves, in interpersonal relations on the job, and also at home. Because you cannot separate your communication problems from on the job to off the job. They are inextricably involved. And your problems at home can create major problems, obviously, on the job. And we will talk about this. Okay, so we are concerned with human evaluation. A proper evaluation is an evaluation that fits the facts, whereas a misevaluation is an evaluation that does not fit the facts. A misevaluation is an evaluation that does not fit the facts. And we can go on further, and is immature. It's immature, destructive, leading toward stupid or immature behavior. A misevaluation is an evaluation which does not fit the facts and is immature, destructive, etc., leading toward, quote, stupid or immature behavior. Ignorance is merely lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge, ignorance. Stupidity, however, is when you see the facts presented right in front of your own eyes and you refuse to change your ways of thinking to fit the facts. This is stupidity. But many of us are also, quote, stupid in our ways of driving a car. The terrain may have changed because there is more rain or more snow. For example, in Chicago. And just take a look at the outer drive. Every time it rains or snows, you will find X number of accidents out there. Why? The world of reality has changed. But what hasn't changed? Their ways of thinking. This is why you have accidents in business and industry. Because of the false assumptions or inferences that individuals have. All right? These are the misevaluations that we are concerned with. And what we're going to try to do tonight is to try to make you conscious of what's the difference between a fact and an inference. Why do we jump to conclusions? Why do we have so many problems? Because we don't know the difference between a fact and an inference. We are not taught this in our high schools, our colleges, and our universities, except in a course in general semantics. How many of you have had a course in general semantics? A few of you? Wonderful. Glad to see that. But not too many. And I've had executives come up to me, and they're mad. They're very angry. They say, why the hell didn't my kids have this 10 years ago? Why didn't I have this 30 or 40 years ago? Because it is a different way of thinking, communicating, and behaving. So this is my definition of general semantics. General semantics is the study of the relationship between language, thought, and human behavior. Notice I say human behavior in contradistinction to animalistic behavior. We are concerned about what constitutes human behavior, because there is a difference between man and animal. You're probably taught in high school that man is an animal. From the point of view of general semantics, man is not an animal. There are some tremendously important differences between man and animal. But we can behave like an animal and rationalize our animalistic behavior by saying, well, man is an animal. But there are tremendously important differences between man and animal. So, general semantics is the study of the relationship between language, thought, and human behavior. We are concerned with the kind of language that you and I use that leads toward accurate thinking, effective thinking or communication, intelligent behavior, or stupidity, etc. And you can put all kinds of situations into either proper evaluation or a misevaluation. Let me show you what I mean. All of you get this down okay? Because I will be erasing and going quite quickly. Now, as I said before, I'm actually, in these 4 short evenings with you, giving you several different courses in psychology of persuasion, psychology of selling, psycho-cybernetics, Think and Grow Rich, The Magic of Believing, general semantics, effective communication. This is the job of a teacher, to go into X number of books, digest the material, synthesize it, and present it to the university students. But what do? A lot of people, number one, don't know where to find the books. All right? And there are answers to many of our problems. If we can find the books, too many individuals don't know how to read or understand the books. We've been out of school too long. And if we do understand the books, we don't know how to apply. The application of this material is so important. And I'm not talking about learning this stuff intellectually. I'm talking about learning this stuff neurologically, getting it into our nervous system, getting it into the gut level. Because there is all the difference in the world in learning something intellectually or cortically and knowing something internally. Internalizing general semantics. This is what we are talking about. Internalizing intelligent behavior. This is what we are talking about. And those of you who are executives in companies, you know darn well that you can tell your associate or subordinates certain information. Give them information, things to do. They will remember, and for some reason, they just cannot apply. Training is so important in business and industry. I'm not talking about teaching. I'm talking about training. One of the few people who make sense is the football coach or the golf pro. They make you get down and do these things neurologically, behaviorally. But do we have training sessions in business and industry? No, not very many, if we have any at all. I'm talking about training sessions for intelligent behavior of your particular job. Why don't we have it? Why don't we have training sessions for salesmen? Why don't we have more training sessions for management? But we just don't have it, unfortunately. This is why we have so many problems in business and industry. They cost time, money, energy, etc. And I'm not only talking about communication problems. I'm talking about human relations problems, the wrong decisions, decisions that have a low degree of predictability. How about on your job? If you make a mistake on one particular decision, how much money will it cost? Thousands of dollars? Right? So we're talking about the saving of time, energy, money, etc.
Please turn the cassette over for the start of Side B at this point.
Let me show you one example of what we mean by a misevaluation. What is this? Anyone? All right, piece of chalk. Chalk that breaks. And what is this? This is what? Eraser. All right, very good. See, this is a very simple course. Pinch your finger, if you will, please, and tell me what you felt.
Extreme pain.
Extreme pain? You pinched hard. This is what, see, that's good. You're internalizing the course. All right, extreme pain. Anyone else? Pressure. All right. Anything else? You were the one who were curious, weren't you? This follows. I will talk about logical fate. How our assumptions, our unconscious assumptions, seem to follow in different areas. But the most important thing is that we are conscious of some of the unconscious assumptions that we live by, that we have. Okay, again, what is this? All right, very good. What is this? And this? All right, what is this? No. A little while ago I asked you, what is this, and what did you say? Chalk. I asked you, what is this, and what did you say? Eraser. Right? Is this this? Is this? No. All right, what is this? Good. What is this? What is this? The word or symbol for chalk, right? And this? All right, you've learned already, right? This is not this, right? This is not this. Okay. All right, I asked you to pinch your finger and tell me what you felt. Is this what you felt? No? All right. You felt the other finger on your finger. Right? This is what you felt. You see why we need this kind of training? But we don't get this kind of training in our educational institutions. In fact, our educational institutions are confusing generations of youngsters, and I will point out why. Anyone else? Is this what you felt? My fingernail on my finger. Back there? There's no exact way to say what you felt. Why not?
Because words aren't feelings.
Beautiful. Remember that. Words are not feelings. I asked you to tell me what you felt. Is this what you felt? No. Right? Tell me what you felt. You can't. Because the moment you tell me what you felt, this is not what you felt. Alfred Korzybski used to go one further. He would say, no matter what you say anything is, it isn't. In other words, the word is not the thing. The word is not the thing. Now this is a kind of a philosophical, theoretical problem, but it has tremendously important practical applications. And if it didn't, I wouldn't bring it up here tonight. Because all I'm trying to do as I go through all this information is to present to you the most practical, the most applicable general semantics, psychology, communication, psychocybernetics, self-hypnosis, autosuggestion, positive thinking principles that you can use. I'm talking about being pragmatic, being practical, being useful for your everyday life no matter what you are doing. Okay, now, why is this important here? Well, let's go over this little quiz first so we can learn something about these misevaluations. Let's go to the first set, 1 through 6. And let me reread the story to familiarize you with it. Jim Jones was standing on the corner waiting for a bus. The corner was dark and lonely. Jim knew that many robbers were around that neighborhood because he was familiar with it. While he was waiting for the bus, a man sneaked up behind him and hit him in the back. Jim whirled around quickly and caught the man with a hard right squarely on the jaw. All right, number 1. How many of you answered true for number 1? Hands? All right, good. And how many of you answered false? All right, a few more. And how many of you answered don't know? And a few more. All right, number one, who had true? The bus Jim was waiting for was late. Anyone? Why did you have true to that, sir? If he was familiar with the neighborhood, he would know when the bus was coming, right? Why was he waiting?
Why was he waiting? He knew when the bus was coming, he would meet it.
Yes.
Well, I put yes because I felt he'd be stupid to be in that kind of a neighborhood at a time when the bus wasn't supposed to be there.
You put yes because you thought he'd be stupid to be waiting for the bus in that kind of a neighborhood.
Right. Unless it was supposed to be there at the time it was there.
Uh-huh. Yes. A little louder, all of you who answer, please, real loud. In fact, when I talk about public speaking, and I'll probably get into that, if you want to be successful in public speaking, when you think you are shouting, you have adequate vocal projection. So in this class, when you talk to me, please yell at me. One of the reasons why public speakers fail, as we will see, because they stand up in front of an audience and say, we used to get this in our public speaking conventions, professors of speech would say, one of the problems that I have with my university students is to get them to talk loud enough. So project your voice. Now, as I will point out, there's a difference between logic and fact. We can give ourselves valid logical reasons for anything, and especially to that which is not factually true. There's a tremendous difference between logic and fact, and this is what general semantics is concerned with. The bus Jim was waiting for was late. Can we make a factual statement that that is true? No. What's that? The bus what? The bus is always. I'm glad you're here. Your statement is just one of the manifestations of this. The other is the false generalization that we will get into. All right, anyone say false? Yes.
I said false. It didn't mention in the story that the bus was late or on time.
It didn't mention that it was late or on time, therefore you answered false.
Actually, if you followed directions and you were going by the facts of the story, you could know because it doesn't say.
All right.
Don't know.
For number one, it should be don't know, right? According to the facts of the story. Now notice how many different answers we are getting. You are all, quotes, intelligent adults. I put quotes. No wonder we have so many misunderstandings and confusions. And this is a very, very simple little test. But we are not taught the difference between our inferences, our assumptions, and that which is factual. And this is one of the reasons why we have so many problems in everyday life. No matter what your job is, as I say, not only in the area of communication, but in the area of interpersonal relations, in selling, false assumptions, attributing false motives to others, accidents in business and industry because you didn't check your inferences. Make an analysis of how much money you are losing due to accidents, time, energy, and it's usually because of one of these misevaluations. Okay, the bus Jim was waiting for was late. That should be don't know. Right? Okay, let's go to number two. How many of you said true for number two? Very good. Quite a few. How many of you say false? Not so many. And how many of you say don't know? Good. We had probably as many for true in number two. Jim was right in hitting the man before he robbed him. All right. Who had true and why?
I believe he might have saved himself from being robbed. That was one way he might be able to protect himself.
That was one way for him to protect himself from what? From being robbed. All right. If you're standing on the corner waiting for a bus and somebody comes up behind you and hits you in the back, It's proper evaluation for you to turn around and slam one. Right? You agree? I'm glad you're here. Your wife is glad you're here. I'm assuming you're married.
Well, when you said hit in the back, I mean, if somebody came up and knocked me in the back, I wouldn't turn around and try and hit them. But if they really hit me in the back, then I would assume that they weren't intending me any charming.
Uh-huh. Okay. What was your answer to this? True, false, or don't know?
Not true.
True?
That
He should have turned around and hit him. What was your answer? True. Any of you say don't know? Don't know? Okay. Because I'm going to hit you on the back. Now notice he said don't know. I won't hit her on the back, or you, because you answered true. I'm going to hit him on the back. What? No, I hit him on the back. Watch. What? No. I hit him on the back. Watch again. Didn't I hit him on the back? What's that?
Yeah, you gotta know what hit means.
You got to know what hit means.
Because when you're saying hit, I assume that hit means you really get hit hard.
Oh, you assume it really means hit hard. Ah, a hit really means it's a ball that goes over first baseline.
Valachi tells us it's a murder.
What's that?
Valachi tells us it's a murder.
Valachi tells you it's a murder. All right. How many of you were taught in high school that words have meaning? You laugh like I'm crazy when I ask that question. But as you will see, this is precisely why you have misunderstandings. This is the difference between semantics and general semantics. You were taught in high school that words have meaning. This is not true at all, as we will see. Did I hit that gentleman?
Yes.
Did I hit him on the back? You bet I did. Did I tap him on the back? You bet I did. But somebody who has this very closed idea about the relationship between words and things, language and the world of reality, they'll say, hell, man, you had to do one or the other. I did both. I hit him, I tapped him. So where are meanings? Are they in words? I want you to reevaluate your thinking about language, about communication. Now notice he said false. In other words, Jim was not right in hitting the man before he robbed him, right?
Well, I thought Jim wasn't right in hitting the man without knowing what hit him and how.
Yeah. It's a little more intelligent, at least, to turn around and see who it is. And then hit him.
Maybe.
Well, maybe. But at least you turned around and you looked. Right? This is a little more intelligent. This is human behavior. But animals are the ones who behave in terms of this automatic, trigger-like, instinctive response. That is not a human response, as we will see. But how much of our behavior in everyday life is automatic, trigger-like, quick, impulsive, whether we're driving our automobiles, whether we're working on the job, this is what causes accidents again, whether we're having communication with others, in the decision-making process, we don't take enough time to evaluate properly. We jump to conclusions, etc. This is what I mean by accurate thinking. And so tonight, my entire lecture, our entire consideration, is what the success books call accurate thinking. General semantics, we call this proper evaluation, or intelligent behavior, or the scientific method. And just as the scientists can be intelligent in the laboratory, so you and I can apply the scientific method outside of the laboratory. And this is what we are talking about. Bertrand Russell, around the turn of the century, said what this world needs is the application of the scientific method to everyday human problems. And boy, this is more relevant today than it has been in the past. What do I mean when I say unsanity, for example? And let me go back to what Korzybski was talking about. Alfred Korzybski was asking the question, why is it that we can build bridges that stay for thousands and thousands of years? Why can we build things that stay for a long time? What do the engineers do that you and I do not do in our human relations that break down so easily? Where do we find the scientific method or thinking at its best? All right, what areas do we find thinking at its best? Anyone? Where? Aerospace research, all right. What you're basically saying is in the sciences, right? Okay, in the sciences. What do the scientists do? They analyze the structure of the world of reality. Then they make their thinking, their formulas, their evaluations, their language fit the facts. They analyze the world of reality first. They make their thinking, their language, their formulas, their evaluations fit the facts. All right? This is thinking at its best, fitting the structure of the world of reality. Where do we find thinking at its worst? Human relations? Emotion? Even worse than that, even worse than in supervision. Advertising? Now you're kind of getting close. Because what does advertising deal with mostly? It deals with people, but what does it deal with mostly? Words, doesn't it? Words in place of facts. In fact, what they try to have you and I do is to respond to the word as if it were the nonverbal thing. And this, in many articles that Dr. Hayakawa himself has written, this is his criticism of advertising. If I ask you, what'll you have, what'll you say? You see? You and I have been conditioned by our language and our semantic environment of advertising to respond exactly the same as Pavlov's dogs. And the general semanticist says this is bad. This is an automatic signal-like reaction that I will be talking about. So in advertising, well, let's put them somewhere here. The worst kind of thinking that we know of in our culture is so bad, quotes, that what do we have to do with them? Lock them up. Let's say in the insane asylums, among the, quotes, insane. And let's put quotes around that. Because insanity is not necessarily a characteristic inside of them as much a relationship in the situation that they are in. Sometimes you can take a person who's, quotes, insane, put him in an insane asylum, quotes, and he's not insane anymore after a short while. Put him back in the society that created the insanity in the first place, and he's back to insanity again. So when we say he is insane, or she is bad, or she is no good, we call this the is of predication, where we're predicating a quality into a person as if it really were in them, as if they can change. He is stupid. He is no good. He has an IQ of 110. Take him out of this environment, give him some training, and all of a sudden he has an IQ of 130. So I will be talking about that too, the dangers of labeling people. And what do we start looking at? We keep looking at the label and we don't look at the person, when they may have changed tremendously. All right, what does the, quotes, insane person do? What do they do in contradistinction to this scientifically oriented person? They do what? Irrational behavior. All right. Basically what they do, they reverse the process. They try to make the world of reality fit what is up here. They reverse the process. They try to make the world of reality fit what is in their mind. You and I may not be insane, but we're not very sane either. Alfred Korzybski said that you and I are unsane. We have unsane ways of behaving. We have misunderstandings, we jump to conclusions, we project things into the world of reality that are only in us. And I will be talking about the unsanity in everyday behavior and in our interpersonal relations. Now, Jim was right in hitting the man before he robbed him. Is that intelligent behavior? Isn't this the kind of thinking that most of us do? And this is why I give you this quiz. Only to help you get it into your nervous system. To help you realize wherein you might jump to conclusions, have false assumptions, etc. Okay, such intelligent action will always result in capturing more robbers. This is not intelligent action. What should that answer be? False. Or, if you want the extreme, don't know. Number 4, this robber should have hit Jim Jones harder before he had a chance to turn around. True? You have true? Yes, true?
I said don't know.
No, I want true. Why did you say true?
Well, if he hit him hard enough, he wouldn't have hit him. The guy wouldn't have hit him.
If he hit him hard enough, the guy wouldn't have turned around and hit him. If who would have hit him? The robber? Is this a robber? How many of you thought this was a robber? Well, there are more than who raised hand. Quite a few of you?
Isn't that what your sentence just said?
What?
Didn't your sentence just say if the robber?
No. No, I say according to the facts of the story. According to the facts of the story. Now, the sentence says this robber should have... Now, I may have called him a robber. Does that make him a robber? What if somebody called you a bastard? What's that? You'd hit him. Again, I'm glad you're here. Was this a robber? We don't know. But notice, according to what Cassius Kaiser called logical fate, if you assume, and by the way, this is what happens to you and I if we assume too much. If you assume it's a robber, your behavior will logically follow, right? So the important thing in all of our interpersonal relations are our unconscious assumptions. And they are usually unconscious. In other words, our assumptions are unconscious assumptions which lead to a certain kind of thinking or behavior. This is what Cassius Kaiser, the famous mathematical philosopher, the late Cassius Kaiser from Columbia, he called this logical fate or logical destiny. If you have certain unconscious assumptions about yourself, about others, about your job, your behavior will logically follow. This is logical fate. Those of you who unconsciously assume that this was a robber, logical fate would dictate that your answers would be similarly all the way down the line. Right? Now notice how important logic is. And this again is the criticism of general semanticists with logic. It has nothing to do with the nonverbal world of reality. Deductive logic is only a relationship between the first premise, second premise, and conclusion. Induction, of course, does have something to do with the world of reality. Induction, for example, the difference is this. In deduction, we start with a generalization. Aristotle was the formulator, of course, of the deductive syllogism. All men are mortal. Notice the generalization as the first premise. Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is mortal. You start with a generalization. Now, where do you get the generalization, the first generalization for the first premise? You get it from induction. You notice this man has died, this man has died, this man has died. then you make what is called an inductive leap. Therefore, all men will die. But induction, you have probability, whereas in deduction, you will have certainty. Let me show you what I mean. Let me start with a deductive syllogism and a first premise. Everybody in this room has 3 heads. Ray Huffman is in this room. Therefore, Ray Huffman has 3 heads. Is that a valid syllogism? Don't jump to conclusions too quickly. I am talking about validity. Does the conclusion follow from the first and the second premise? Yes, that is a valid syllogism. Is it a true statement? No, because the first premise was false. So what we are concerned with, you see, in general semantics, your first premises that you orient your life on, your unconscious assumptions that you live by, are they true or are they false? About yourself, about your co-worker, or about your husband, your wife, your children, etc. And one of the reasons why we have so many difficulties is because we are all